Welcome. If you are interested and able, you can join us with your beautiful faces on screen. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks so much for being here today. My name is Tessa Hicks Peterson. I'm a professor of cultural studies at Pitzer and director of community engagement and center CASA, which stands for Critical Advocacy and Social Action. And we have a really beautiful new project we've recently launched called No Justice, No Peace, a transformation and justice collective. We have a number of students who've been working on this project with us. Students, if you've been working on the project, raise your hand and we'll give you some love. And we also have invited guests each month to come lead a healing practice that will fortify us in the work for justice. And this project is really looking at the intersections of how we heal from the traumas of injustice and build our resilience and our well-being in the work that we do fighting for social change and racial justice. So that's who we are and what we're doing. And every month, the second Friday of the month, we will have a different healing session. So we invite you to come back and join us each month. So I'm going to pass the mic to Vanessa to introduce today's healing practitioner.
Thank you, Tessa. Welcome, everybody. I have the honor today of introducing our guest speaker, who also happens to be part of our leadership team at No Justice, No Peace. So for today, we're going to be listening to Scarlett. Scarlett is a dedicated activist, community worker, and meditation instructor, and she's here today to share her expertise in yoga and meditation as a somatic tool for building community resilience to racial and economic injustice. She brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in organizing for warehouse laborers in the Inland Empire, grounding meditation, and mindfulness exercises. Now, if you could all just please help me give a warm welcome to Scarlett Duarte.
Before we begin, I just want to let everyone know that we actually have translation available for today's session. So if you would like it, please click the button on the bottom of your screen for Spanish, and you will magically hear the beautiful voice of Janaya Dunlap, who is translating for us today. Make sure to mute the original sound so you only hear her voice. All right, take it away, Scarlett.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I've had the pleasure of working with some of you. So hello to those that I am familiar with, and hello to those that I have not yet been lucky enough to meet. But welcome to this space and welcome to this healing practice today. My name, like Vanessa mentioned, my name is Scarlett Duarte. I am a yoga meditation teacher. And so we've been working on this project. And so today's exercise, we're going to be connecting how meditation, how you engage meditation in the social justice spaces and how that affects, or what the effects are of racial inequity, and how to become aware of those, and what tools and skills we can use in order to become aware of those inequities in our spaces, in ourselves, and in our communities. So like I said, we're going to be doing some of these practices, but let's just go to, can we go to the third slide, please? Thank you. So we're going to see how white supremacy and capitalism have created a society where listening is not a priority, right? Like most of the time when we engage with community, even as organizers, a lot of the time we're just giving information, and a lot of the time we're not actively listening, right? Sorry, we're not actively listening. So what happens is we miss a lot of information, and then we interpret that information through our own bias and our own lens. And that's where some of this oppression gets replicated, or we start to replicate these systems in our own spaces. A lot of the time in organizing and in these spaces, productivity is prioritized over well-being, right? Like the more you got to move. And we understand that these issues are like super important, and organizing, you never get a chance to take a break, because what if you miss something, or something's gonna happen if you don't answer that call, or you don't get to that place in time. So a lot of that is beginning to recognize these systems in ourselves, and being able to prioritize our well-being, and then we can prioritize the well-being of our community. So this is not, I'm not talking about like an individual lens where we just think about ourselves and don't think about anybody else. I'm saying we look at ourselves and we look at other people. So we want to create spaces where we listen to people, and we get to see, the people with privilege get to listen to the people that don't have the same access to the same privilege. So we want to make sure that we're allowing people to have a voice in all of our spaces, not just, certain voices get louder. In a lot of our spaces, we have privilege that we're not aware of. And so this is this is a practice that I want to begin to offer to people in our spaces, so that we can begin to recognize how we're internalizing these systems and recreating them in our social structures and our social justice circles. You can just change the slide, please. So we're going to do a quick breakout, really quick. There's going to be, so this is the question. If you can please, somebody can please put the question in the chat, drop that question in the chat. And we're going to pair up, go into breakout rooms, and then we're going to discuss this with one another. So like, you're going to name a privilege that you've become aware of in your life. And this is just what the focus of this exercise is right now. So just talk about amongst yourselves what the privilege you have, a name of privilege you have become aware of in your life. And then we can do the breakout rooms.
Sorry if that was abrupt. It always is hard to get pulled out of a nice conversation. I don't know how else to do it. And sorry to Toya, who got pulled from one room to another. My apologies. Sometimes the breakout room doesn't work out so beautifully, but all right.
Because I was all by myself. So.
I know. That's when I realized you were alone. I was like, oh no, she's got to be with some people. So then I pushed you into a new room. I hope that worked out.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. So did we all get a nice little chat going? Some time to talk? Did you guys identify any anything that came up for you during the discussion? Did anybody recognize anything coming up for them? When I say coming up, I mean like things that you're noticing, like, oh, when somebody said they identified a certain privilege, like what did that make you feel or think about, or what came up in you? Was it like, ooh, or was it like, yay, or what was coming up for you guys?
Didn't really see anything coming up. It was kind of difficult for me to answer that, to identify what my privilege was as being an African American woman and experiencing all the disparities that I've experienced in my life. So that was kind of hard for me.
One thing that me and Nahyada, I think almost that we talked about was the privilege of like being able to have an education, but then alongside that we also kind of talked about how like that shouldn't feel like a privilege, almost like it should be a right that we're able to like navigate the space that we do, like in our university space.
And just to jump off of Amaya, almost close with Mahida. It's a hard one. But yeah, I just wanted to share that like it did feel kind of seen, just being able to like hear that they also kind of felt the same way about certain like spaces that we inhabit and how that can be a privilege just to be there. But also for me, like I touched on like how it's sometimes a privilege just to ask questions or be confident in asking questions. Because when I touched on like how my parents like always told me to kind of like calladita se ves más bonita, like, you know, you look cuter without, you know, talking back, right? And so for that, it was like something I was learning to do in those spaces, and then kind of brought back to my family. But it was very difficult, and they're still kind of learning and practicing to ask questions. But because, you know, sometimes they do feel unsafe to even speak out and be like, oh, why are you doing this? Or, you know, I deserve this, right? So yeah, that's something we just touched on. But yeah.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you everyone for sharing those beautiful thoughts and ideas and identifying those things in each other and seeing each other. So what I will be talking about today is embodied listening, right? And so there's different definitions for this. I really like this particular definition on the slide. You know, embodied listening is listening with the whole body, a kind of deep listening in which we are fully present for others, giving them space and support to share their experience fully, without interrupting, without judging, without shifting the topic to ourselves, or even trying to be helpful before help is asked for. So I think this is one of my favorite practices. And the reason I practice this is because, you know, I've had a lot of trauma in my life. I've experienced a lot of things, and I've survived a lot of situations and been really blessed with that kind of stuff. But and sometimes it's been really hard. And what I noticed in my experience was there wasn't a lot of people that were listening to me. So let me give you an example. I had my oldest daughter passed away. She was 16 years old. And when she passed away, I became like the comforter to people. It was weird. It was like I was going through this thing, but all of a sudden I became the person holding space. Like I had to make people feel better because people aren't comfortable in discomfort, right? It makes people really uncomfortable. So I found myself listening to people. And so then what I realized is like, that's what I wanted for myself. I wanted somebody to just sit and listen, not to fix, not to relate, not to react in any way, but rather just hold some safe space for me and to be a container for my grief. Luckily, I, you know, fell into meditation and yoga, and I fell in love and connected with a wonderful community that then embraced me, and we would actively practice this listening. And so I think it's really important to kind of bring this now into the social justice circles, because I think, you know, even at a staff call, you know, when I was at work, we would do staff meetings, and I would practice this because I wouldn't, you know, initially I would hear something and maybe my body would like reject it immediately. Like, oh, I don't agree with that. That's not, you know, but then as I noticed, like, as I'm listening, as I'm fully present, I noticed that I don't have to respond to them, or I don't have to react or help or do anything sometimes. I mean, sometimes you do, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just need to listen. And so this is one of the, this is why I'm, you know, I really like this practice. So what is embodied listening? So embodied listening is the complete attention without the need to respond, interrupt, or comment. It's holding space, maintaining eye contact, suspending your sense of self-importance or ego, or, you know, the need to, like, I think a lot of times we feel like we're trying to relate to people, and sometimes we can just listen, and that's enough relating. That's enough sharing and giving of ourselves. cultivating openness and space consciousness. So you want to create safe spaces for community and for workers, or, whatever population you're serving. You want to create a safe container, even amongst ourselves. Like, I want to be able to show up in this space and feel safe and feel heard and be seen. I think that was something that Izzy mentioned in our breakout session, right? It was, she said she feels seen. And I think this is one of those things that is such a great gift from this practice. So we're going to go ahead and move into another breakout, but I really would like people to refrain from speaking to each other. I mean like, one person should speak for 2 minutes and the other person should say nothing. You're just receiving the information. You're maintaining eye contact. You can nod your head, right? But you cannot respond verbally. So you're just listening to someone talk for 2 minutes. When your mind begins to wander and you start to think about the grocery list, or this project at work, or this community member, or your kids, or whatever it is that comes up in our mind when we sit with ourselves, you're not supposed to like stop your mind. That's not the goal of this. It's almost like, when you're having a conversation with somebody and your kids are running around. I don't know how many of us have kids, but I happen to have kids. And when I have conversations and they tend to run around, and I'm like, oh, but I'm like, I can still bring myself back to the conversation, right? So this is what we're going to practice. We're not going to practice emptying our mind and like, oh, like I'm just going to be frozen listening to you. But every time our mind wanders, we're going to come back to the person talking. We're going to come back and be present with the person that's talking. And we're going to really try to listen to what they're saying. Now, some of the things that may come up, like I said, are, even with our best intentions, sometimes our sense of self-importance comes into play, and we look for opportunities to make it about ourselves. So we're not talking about ourselves. I mean, with a person talking can talk about the discussion question in reference to themselves, of course, but the other person will just be listening for 2 minutes, and then we'll switch off. Then the next person will talk for 2 minutes and we'll listen for 2 minutes. And then we'll come back together and we'll see what differences or what the feeling was from one practice to the other, right? Because in the first one, we weren't practicing embodied listening. We were just having a conversation with one another, right? And it's okay for you to be uncomfortable. It's okay for it to feel weird. It's okay that you're maybe get a little fidgety. Maybe you start to tune out a little bit. All that stuff is normal and it's absolutely okay. This is what's expected, right? Like, these are the things that are going to happen. You want to make sure that you're not taking anybody's power from them, right? That you're empowering them instead. You want to resist the urge to speak unless asked to, which we shouldn't be asking anybody in this particular exercise. We shouldn't be asking people to respond. We're just going to be talking for 2 minutes. Give people only as much information as they can handle. So sometimes I noticed, and I've done this a lot of times, when a worker will come up to me, or I'm trying to engage in a conversation and somebody's telling me something going on with their life, I immediately want to give them information and then sometimes I overload them with info, right? Like I start, oh, you can go to this resource and this resource and this resource. And then it makes them kind of paralyzed because it's too much information for them to process in that moment. So we're not going to be offering people information. We're going to make a commitment to cultivate silent power. And what that means is we're just going to hold space for people. We're going to be talking, like I said, 2 minutes, and then we'll come back together. What do I do, or what do we do when the urge to respond comes up? that need to like say something or fill the silence, because this is something that I've experienced, right? All you have to do, and all I'm asking is for you to become aware of the need. Just notice it without judging it. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just, you just feel that urge to respond. Bring your attention to your breath. Just notice that you're breathing. This is like, you don't have to deepen your breath. You don't have to do any, you don't have to change it in any way. All you have to do is notice that you're breathing. Notice that your mind is wandering, and then just bring your attention back to the speaker. So, yeah, so that's what to do when things start coming up for you, for you during this practice. So why don't we go ahead and move into the practice? Let's go ahead and break out. And can somebody drop the question into the chat? Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. How's everybody doing? How was that? How did that feel for people? Does anybody want to?
I want to share. I met this beautiful young lady by the name of Sonia. She's so amazing. That 2 minutes, even though we had 2 minutes over and over and over, and we kept doing things over and over and over, but it was so good. I had an opportunity to really see her beauty on the inside. She was just a light to me. Our stories, she just don't understand what she shared with me. We are so much together, two different women, two different ethnicities, but we're so much alike. We have experienced so much. And I just want to tell her I love her. I commend her, and keep going and don't ever give up. And thank you for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Toya, I think everyone on this call who knows Sonia would have to agree. And I'm so glad that you guys found that beautiful point of connection. That's why we're here.
Thank you, Toya.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, I would just say that listening is sometimes can be difficult, in the sense of, if we were talking about the embodied listening, it can be difficult in the sense of, what I was discussing was, sometimes you are with certain people that if you'd said nothing, even though you're giving them eye contact and maybe you're shaking your head or whatever, that they may expect something different. They don't feel like maybe you're listening because you're not saying anything. Although I think it's important in other situations, very important. As I was describing venting, when you're venting and you don't want somebody to fix it and you don't want somebody to necessarily say something, you just need to get something off your chest. That is a good place. I would also say that my other thoughts on this is when you're listening, sometimes what I found difficult, especially towards the end, is when I'm listening to what my partner is saying, I am listening so much that when she's done speaking, now I haven't even thought about my thoughts because I'm entrenched in what she's saying. And so then that leaves me feeling, like, gosh, I got to talk, And so I just said, can you give me a pregnant pause to kind of think about this? Because I got to bring it back to me, because now I'm supposed to speak. So I just found that a little difficult to do, like to go straight from listening to her and not responding to what she's saying, but coming up with my own thoughts. That was a little difficult. That's all I had to say. And love you, Toya, just so you know. It's Jen.
Jen, I love you too.
A lot of love, a lot of love. That's why we come together, and that's why we do this. Anyone else?
just want to say I'm grateful for how well Nahaira listened to me, and I promise I had my camera on in the breakout room, that I did some ugly crying, so I have it back off, but just expressing some gratitude.
For real, for real. Yeah, my experience with Keely was very what's the word? Well, I felt like very understood. I felt like heard. I really appreciate that. It's also um like what Jen just said, like it was hard to like hear and then just like not respond to what they said, and then just like go on with your own thoughts. But yeah, I definitely appreciated the conversation that we had.
I apologize.
I think you cut out.
For hobby, but are we talking about
Griselda, you're on mute, so we can't hear you, my dear.
Again, I was wondering, I'm obviously late, my apologies, but I'm curious if you guys are talking about holding the space and not fixing things. Is that the topic?
Yes, that's another term. The exercise is embodied listening, but yeah, it is really about learning how to hold space for one another and not having to fix or respond sometimes. Sometimes a response is needed, like Jen pointed out, sometimes, or that transition from listening to talking is a little difficult. That is that is a little difficult, but it's when we're talking, we get to turn the focus back to ourselves. So I think this is I really enjoyed this practice. I was with Autumn, and she's a very lovely young lady, and we got to share some stuff, and it was really like I felt, for me personally, I felt really seen and heard. When she answered her question, sometimes she used some of the phrases that I used, or I used some of the phrases that she did, kind of just knowing that, acknowledging to one another that we were listening, right? And that we were present in that conversation. So did anybody else have anything that they wanted to share from their experience? Okay. Did you notice a difference from the first time we did a breakout compared to now, to the second breakout? So what were some of the differences that you experienced, one versus the other?
For me, Toya, the first experience was uncomfortable. The second experience was warm and beautiful.
Awesome.
For me, I felt like during my conversation with Red the first time, like I kept asking more questions and interrupting him, like wanting to say more, like adding on to it. But like in the second one with like the embodied listening, I was listening and then I was trying to hold my thought and be like, okay, this is what I'm asking. Or like I want to ask these questions, but then I forgot them. You know what I mean? Or just like the urge to talk. I'm just like, no, this is not gonna. No, I'm just gonna listen. But
thank you. Anyone else care to share along those lines? The difference between the first practice and the second?
I don't want to take up too much space, but yeah, I just wanted to share that although I didn't have the same person for each session, I think I did notice a huge difference. As someone who I felt just more safe and like comfortable and almost free to share what I wanted to without like, I know we had questions, but like no really agenda, like, you know. So I really like that, where before, because I suffer with so much anxiety sometimes when I like try to have a conversation with someone, I'm like thinking of a question or I'm thinking of something else and I'm not really present. And I feel like this time I was able to really just really grasp everything that Avalon was sharing with me, and especially because it was such serious things that I felt like I was able to meet that moment better, where it's like before I would have been like mentally all over the place. But now I was like able to really feel and see her and just sit with her feelings. And I hope that's what like I that was my intent. So I hope that's what was projected over to her, because it is something I struggle with. But I love that we're able to practice here more. So thank you for that, Scarlett.
So I hope that we can take some of these tools, we can take this tool with us, right? Like when we're at a staff meeting, maybe we practice, or when we're talking to somebody that we are working with, maybe we get to practice. You know, you don't have to tell them, I'm not going to talk for 2 minutes. You just have to practice it yourself and say, you know, take it and just practice it. That's how you incorporate it. You know, you incorporate it with your kids or your partner or, you know, your family. And you just really try to make this, kind of put this tool in your toolbox so you can start exercising that like meditation muscle. So I know there was a lot of stuff that came up for folks. And so I want to kind of ground us and bring us back into this space to get us ready to kind of get back out there. I'm sorry, hang on one second. Oh yes, you can share the slides. The slides are totally shareable. You guys, whatever's mine is first, no big deal. So yes, let us kind of get grounded here. If you're sitting, I would ask that you would sit in a posture where your back is against your chair and maybe your legs or feet are flat on the ground. Or if you're like me, you're sitting on the floor, just go ahead and take an easy posture and cross your legs and relax. So I want us to take 3 collective breaths together, right? So that we know that we're breathing together and we're one, right? So we're going to take 3 inhales. I'm so sorry. We're going to take 3 deep breaths on the count of 3. We're going to inhale and then exhale out through our mouth, so we can hear ourselves breathe together. So it'll sound like this. Inhale through your mouth. Exhale through your mouth. Inhale through your nose, sorry. Exhale through your mouth. I'm confused. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get comfortable in our seat. If you're comfortable, you can close your eyes or lower your gaze. And we're gonna take a deep breath in through our nose. Exhaling loudly through our mouth. Inhaling through our nose. Exhaling out through our mouth. One last and final breath. Inhale through your nose. Exhale out through your mouth. Go ahead and wiggle your fingers and your toes, any movement that feels good in your body. Open your eyes. Maybe stretch. And hopefully we're a little more grounded and present again. And then I'll turn it over now to Tessa. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your time and your energy, and you guys are all amazing. Thank you so much for the privilege. It was so much. It was so fun. It was a great experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scarlett. Let's all send Scarlett our like loving vibes through the Zoom atmosphere, our gratitude for this beautiful day, our hearts I hope you can feel it. It's flooding your screen right now. What a beautiful way to launch this program. We are here doing a healing practice every month, the second Friday of the month, free and open to everyone. You can share with your family and friends. And this is so beautiful because it's not just a willy-nilly practice. We're doing this to fortify ourselves in the really intense work that we're all involved in, working for justice. And so thank you, Scarlett, for giving us tangible tools that we can embody that every day of our lives, and in moments where people don't even know, and we're like going deep into our lessons from this day. Yeah, so we're going to give you a brief little reflection. Dalia is going to put into the chat a brief little reflection. If you guys don't mind clicking on the link and just telling us, how did this land for you? We want every session we do to really be wonderful for all of you. So tell us, how did it land for you? What's something you're going to walk away with? Maybe a question you still have. Avalon, I know you have a question. You can write it there, and you can also unmute yourself in a second and just ask it or put it in the chat. And then what you want in the future. And we're going to just keep customizing these each month for all of you. So if you could just do that, we're going to put on a little music, and then in a minute, Keely will wrap us up and knock it out. But while you guys are all filling out your little evaluation reflection, Avalon, feel free to ask a question.
Thanks, Tessa. Yeah, I think not all starting over staff knew that this was happening today. And I don't know if this is an official part of the No Justice, No Peace trainings. And if so, I thought this was just an amazing resource. And I made a calendar event to invite starting over staff to the first Friday of the month meetings. And I'm wondering if I should do the same with this link as well for the second Friday of the month, so everybody knows about this.
Yeah, I think Therese did that calendar invite for. Was there one for today, Therese, or was it for the other Friday? Or Dahlia?
I made the calendar invite for today, but Google Calendar thought it was against its guidelines for some reason. So I'll create another one. So I don't think folks got the one for today. Just the reminder.
Healing meditation and body listening is contraband, I guess.
For some weird reason. So I'll have to call it something else, but I'll send out another invite.
Yes. So yeah, we'll do that again, Avalon, and we'll just try to make sure, it gets through so that everyone, like anyone who's here today, will send you a calendar invite so you have second Friday at 3 o'clock always on your calendar to join us. And Avalon, we also sent a different email to all the people who participated in the organizational training, so they should have gotten that. But if people didn't, do let us know. So yeah, keep filling out your little reflection form so we can keep giving you all the goods. And Keely, do you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Scarlett, for like the healing practices, because like my own reflection, I felt really empowered with my conversation with Red and just like being collectively in this space together. And I feel like I've really built like, within an hour, a virtual community. And if anyone else wanted to share your thoughts too, you can leave like a one-word just like a one-word comment on like how it went for you, like your sessions, just a quick reflection. And I'm looking at the Jamboard. Oh, and this is so cute. Like my heart does feel warm too. Does anyone want to share your quick reflection? Connected and calm. Yes. So my parents are talking. They're pretty loud. Cleared my head. Feeling more grounded, I see. Incredibly beautiful. Does anyone want to share their voice too? I love hearing people's voices. Okay, let's give y'all a few more minutes and we can close off. So also with Tessa, she was mentioning the healing practice for next month. There's going to be a healing practice for a somatic experience to navigate the traumas of injustice by Hala. And she's a trauma therapist who is also part of the No Justice, No Peace leadership team. And we hope that y'all remember that. March 14th at 3 p.m. Keep that in your calendar. And yeah, does anyone have any last reflections, little comments? No, do y'all want to go? Okay, let's just give her a round of applause. Do you want to unmute and clap for Scarlett then?
Scarlett.
And you can feel free to go once you finish the evaluations or take it.
Yeah, you can also do it on your own time and just it'll save it there. And there's future events you'll find on the Pitzer CASA page, and we hope to see you again soon. Thanks everyone for showing up.
Thank
Have a
you,
beautiful
everyone. Thank you so
weekend.
much.
Scarlett.